Something I would encourage you to do is to pick a key that you're going to write your song in before you start writing the song. And the main reason for this is simply that it gives you some level of constraints to allow yourself to unleash your creativity without having to constantly worry about oh, does this sound right? And I combine these notes and it doesn't seem to make a right chord. Why is that? What do I need to change? It's easier to just pick a key from the outset. Think of it sort of like this. If you have a bunch of friends over and then you just say, what do you guys want to eat? Or hey, what should we play? What should we do? That super open-endedness is usually how it ends up turning into a bunch of people standing in the kitchen just talking for 2 hours, not making any decision on what food one should eat. Some people want Greek, some people want Chinese, some people want pizza. Then it takes even longer to figure out what games to play. But what would be easier? If you said to people, hey, we're going to have a board game night and we're going to get pizza, right? Pizza, board game night. Now, people that come are going to be people that are interested in those things. It's clear what you're going to do. You're not going to stand around and talk about it for forever. You're going to have you're going to get 3 or 4 board games played before, in the other scenario, you even would have picked dinner. But the idea is the same. Just pick a key. For the most part, 99% of songs work basically entirely within a key anyway. Sure, you have accidentals once in a while, right? You might have a song in the key of C, for example, but you actually have one F sharp somewhere in the song that, sort of gives a key of G feel or something like that. You can always add those later, but to start within the constraints of something that is commonly accepted. Most songs are written, or all songs really, are written within the context of a key. So pick a key, and the reality is what key you pick doesn't really matter. It matters in the sense that, for example, if you pick a minor key or a major key, you're now kind of constraining yourself to something on the sadder side of things or something that's maybe not necessarily on the sadder side of things. It's not really true that major key sounds happy. So you're constraining yourself a little bit, but you also know what notes you have at your disposal and what chords you have at your disposal, which helps make the songwriting process so much easier. Because if I sit down at my keyboard and I think, okay, I'm going to start writing a song, I'm usually going to start with improvisation. What's a great way to start with improvisation? Just picking a key. So I might say, okay, key of E major. Now I know what notes I have to work with, and I know what chords I have to work with and what their job is in the context of the key I've chosen. So for example, we'll take the key of E major. I know I have the notes E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, and D sharp. Those are my notes. So I know in my right hand when I'm improvising different melody ideas, those are the notes I should hit. I shouldn't hit a C note because it's probably going to sound bad because that's not within the context of the key that I have chosen. And I know that. So it's going to be easy for me to just improvise and not hit anything that sounds wrong per se, and for the most part just be really efficient in my songwriting. In the same way, when I know, okay, it's the beginning of the chorus, I want a chord that's going to be powerful and sound like home, I know that key in the context of E major is going to be an E major chord because it's the one chord in the context of E major. Or for example, if I know that I want to leave the song hanging at the end on sort of an uneasy note, so I kind of want a minor 6 chord, I know in the context of the key of E major, that is my C sharp minor chord. So because I understand some level of music theory, and because I've chosen a key, I've put some constraints on myself that allow me to actually just improvise freely and really songwrite freely, which ends up saving me a ton of time in the end. And if you're worried about yeah, but what if I'm not really comfortable playing in that key? Or what if, the melody I end up writing for that key is a little too high for me vocally, or it's just not comfortable? You can always change the key later. You don't have to commit to the key long term. You can always transpose it later. But just to start with, it doesn't really matter. You don't have to sing along. You can improvise the melody, if you're on keyboard, for example, you can improvise it with your right hand. On guitar, maybe it's a little different. Maybe you can use falsetto or something and just realize oh no, I did a B and I can't hit a B, so I'm going to need to eventually move this song to a different key. That's all okay. In the same way, yes, of course, there are songs that use accidentals. There are songs that do things outside of the notes that are given in the key. You can do that as well, but just start with a key, start with a framework. That way, it's going to be easier to be efficient about your songwriting. And hey, if right now you're thinking to yourself, Joseph, you just said a whole bunch of things about like E major and all these notes that are in E major, and then he talked about like a minor 6 chord. What the heck is all that? That's all another language to me. I thought we were speaking English, and then all of a sudden in the middle it went to some other language I've never heard. If you're thinking like that, be sure to check out my free guide. The link will be in the description down below. It's about the music theory that songwriters need to know. I know a lot of people out there will tell you that you don't need to know any music theory, but those people are usually one of two types of people. A, they don't really know what music theory is. They think that it's just like academic knowledge that has no actual practical use, which is wildly incorrect. Or oftentimes they are people that, yes, it's technically true that you don't need to know music theory. It just makes you much more efficient. It's not that hard to learn. It makes it so that you are going to become a better songwriter because you can be much more intentional about what you do musically because you have the knowledge to understand what language you're speaking here. All I just said, right, where I know in the context of E major, I have all these notes to work with, and I also know that in the context of E major, the most powerful chord that feels like home that I should probably start the chorus with is the chord E major, and I know that my minor 6 chord that will have that sort of uneasy minor feeling that I might want to end the song with is my minor 6 chord, which in the context of that key is C sharp minor. All that stuff I said, you don't know that without learning music theory, and that's all music theory knowledge. But here's the good news. I think there are only 4 pillars of music theory that you really absolutely need to know. There's a ton of music theory that is helpful. There is a ton of music theory that is borderline useless. And then there are these 4 pillars of music theory that honestly, I started songwriting before I knew these, but once I learned these, I can't even imagine going back to these so hard, so long, so frustrating process of trying to write a song without knowing these 4 pillars, which by the way, they are keys, intervals, chords, and chord progressions. So if you want to learn those 4 things, which I think are fundamental to everything we do as songwriters, knowing these 4 things will allow you to basically sit at a keyboard and just improvise something that sounds good, or same with guitar if you're a guitarist. And all you really need are those 4 pillars. So if you're interested in that, be sure to check that out. Link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you, and I will talk to you in the next one.